I have a question for you all,
Oh,
and it's a big one. What is the most influential superhero movie of all time?
influential.
Mm-hmm. Not the best, the most influential.
Influential like opens the gates for other people.
Interpret.
I think a movie that you can clearly see the DNA of in a lot of other features. A movie that we can clearly tell has inspired the minds of creators who would come later.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things, visual style, whatever stands out most to you.
I have two answers for this,
I
but
think I
the
do too. But
the
go ahead.
Yeah.
reasoning is the same. I think for the idea of a superhero films, I think it's Batman '89, the original Tim Burton Batman movie. I think that kind of introduced the world to the idea of these superhero movies being a thing that we can get. And then I know Superman happened at the time already, but I think Batman was a little more like, oh, there are other flavors than just what superhero is, because that's what Superman is. So I think Burton's Batman was the beginning of that. Then we had all those Batman movies afterwards, yada yada yada. But I think the other one is Iron Man. I think Iron Man was the beginning of what the superhero, the comic book movie genre is. Like CBMs were not a thing at that point. There was like, oh, here's this movie that's based on a comic book. After Iron Man, we had comic book movies. And I think that was the beginning of the formation of the MCU, which that's its own thing entirely. And now DC is trying to replicate that in their own ways. But I would say those two would be the big ones for me.
I would say The Dark Knight in that it it got away from the uh not cheesy, but the very over the top villain. And like with Joker, you could have gone a few ways, and they have gone a few ways with the character and the setting of that movie being a bit more dark, and the fact that Joker's end goal is just unruly and to cause chaos. That felt different than your typical bad guy at the end of a film, which I think a lot of the movies had pulled from. There were certain characters that had complexity and depth, and I'm thinking of like the the Sandman story to some degree. But I think that was a marker of just like, oh, you can also just get a villain that has real stakes that don't feel like it's just a superhero movie at the end of the day. And then I guess the other one for me was just like a way of general audiences really connecting with the concept of superhero and comic book movies was Scott Pilgrim. But I don't know that's not necessarily superhero. It's more comic booky, and I think it had impact for those people who weren't necessarily the Spider-Man fans, weren't the Batman fans of the world.
That's an interesting point on Scott Pilgrim, and
Mm,
I think
mm.
I wouldn't put it in this spot, but I agree with what you said.
Sure.
Yeah, to take a sort of similar twist, I also have two answers. Superman, uh, the first one.
Mm.
I think it's probably like the first like good superhero film. I think a lot came before it, but I think Superman was the very first one that probably elevated the superhero film, to cinema, you know.
Mm.
Um and then uh I think this might be controversial, but I'm gonna include it because it's a classic comic strip, and you can make arguments for the superhero business, but Flash Gordon,
Oh.
I think, is a
Huh.
very influential film. Um, the effects of the 1980 film, I think, really probably really carried over to Empire Strikes Back,
Mm.
and
Oh.
and we know that Flash Gordon was in general, was a massive inspiration to George Lucas in the first place. So my thinking here is that Flash Gordon is the thing that inspired Star Wars, which like exploded.
Did it come out
Yeah.
after or before?
Came out before.
So Flash Gordon came out before Empire Strikes Back, but after A New Hope. My argument is that it inspired stuff like the Sky Town
Oh,
in
Cloud
Empire.
City.
That's the one.
Yeah, real creative, George.
That's interesting.
I mean, I would argue Flash Gordon, the character, is like that for comic books too. So I think it's kind of built
Yeah,
into the
absolutely.
character.
Well, he's your quintessential pulp character with, you know, the added benefit that he's got the sci-fi angle.
yeah. I'd argue that's a superhero film.
And Queen, come on.
Oh,
Come
soundtrack?
on.
Hell yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on.
So, as appears to be the theme here, I have two. The first one that I'm going to choose might be a little controversial, but I mean, I think it's the case. I'm going with Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Well, at least we get the hashtag. Oh wait, no, this is membership exclusive.
As inspirational,
Absolutely.
influential,
Influential.
Influential to
Absolutely.
a group of incels. It's membership. It's behind a paywall. I can say that.
to fucking what? It came out
I'm-
yesterday.
I'm just kidding. It's just.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just-
Oh, you motherfucker.
I was about to be like, I was sitting
You
here
bet-
really thinking through the logic, just like,
Yeah.
ah,
Can I
this
curse
is-
behind
You
the
better
paywall,
sh-
Sean?
You better show your work.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Show
I
me
could
the
be a little
math. I
more-
don't. It's not adding up.
Good to know I can be a little more reckless behind the paywall. Yeah, no, fuck
Dude.
that, Sean.
If I had to, I'd make the argument, but I wasn't serious. My real answer is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the OG. I think that movie, we obviously had a lot of comic book movies before that. I think that movie showed that they didn't have to be campy like what we were getting with Batman at that time, but they also didn't have to be super dark like what we got with Batman also, and Blade, and just to a certain extent X-Men. Spider-Man felt like a movie that you could take your family to and have a great time, but also get a legitimate story that will pull on your heartstrings and give you everything that you need to get from a story. And I think if you look at the trajectory of comic book movies all the way through Iron Man, the DNA of Spider-Man is in them, even when they got it wrong. Like Fantastic Four, not great, clearly a Spider-Man. I even think that Iron Man, in a lot of ways, took its cues from how Tony should be and what could make a compelling main character and a villain from Spider-Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah, I think that's right. And Spider-Man 2 only solidified that.
And to that point, I remember the feeling of being in the theater to watch that. Just like as a kid, like, whoa, this is, especially after hearing hype about it, whoa, this is like what the comics are like, and the first mention therein of comics and association beyond the character, obviously.
This maybe is a side thing. I know you have another answer, Sean, but there's something about that era of comic book movies, and I would say even predating it, with the Schumacher Batman stuff, is like soundtracks. Like they don't exist for superhero movies anymore.
Man.
Like I remember having the Spider-Man soundtrack, even though like Nickelback was on there, but like Dashboard Confessional was on there. Like,
Hey,
Vintage
don't knock
Cale.
that Nickelback
Yeah.
song.
it's
Don't knock that song. Like that fucking slaps.
But like Kiss from a Rose and Batman Forever by
Yeah.
Seal, like they don't have that anymore. We have scores, which are great. Like say what you will about Multiverse of Madness, but I think the score is phenomenal. So it's almost like that was Burton back then. They did scores. Schumacher changed it a little bit, made it a little more modern, and then we're shifting back to that era of scores again.
Yeah. Dude, I used to listen to that Spider-Man album and cry.
Dude,
Like
I used
that-
to listen to soundtracks all the time.
The Daredevil one is my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh my god. No,
Evanescence
you know which
and
one is my
Stone Sour?
favorite?
Yeah.
This movie is not in the conversation at all, but the Punisher soundtrack is absolutely top tier.
I've
Oh,
never
you
seen
gotta
that
listen.
first Punisher movie.
Same.
The
With
Thomas
Thomas
Jane.
Jane?
No, I've
Yeah.
seen War Journal,
Dude.
and War Journal is literally like maybe top 15 comic book movies for me. I love Punisher War Journal.
I've only seen it like rebroadcast on TV, I think.
which is where it belongs.
All right, so when I'm behind a paywall, which this will probably be like made available later, but when I'm behind a paywall, I say shit I shouldn't say. So
Here we go.
when that movie came out, it
Which
was like
Punisher?
sorry, oh Punisher, yeah.
Okay.
What was that, like 2003, something like
Yeah.
that, 2004? I I had an internet girlfriend, all right, and after I saw that movie. And I saw how Punisher's whole family died and he lost his girl and everything else. I was thinking about like, well, wait, what if I lose my girlfriend? What will I become? Will I become the Punisher? And I got really sad thinking that I was going to lose my girlfriend. An internet girlfriend that I had in 2003.
With
been there.
the precursor to a Discord kitten.
Yeah,
What,
pretty much. Yeah.
what the fuck
I
is a
don't know
Discord
what the
kitten?
fuck.
Yeah, I agree with Marco on that one. Nobody told me that the villain is John Travolta in that movie.
Yes.
Yes.
And Kevin Nash
I do.
is
I
in it.
do remember that. Yeah. I went through a very similar thing, Sean. But it was religion that did that to me. My internet girlfriend was a pagan, and I wept
Oh, yeah.
on the phone because like, my 14-year-old brain, she was like, man, she's gonna go to hell. And like, and I just like, for whatever reason, just one day, I just couldn't get out of my head. So I was sobbing on the phone with her. And to this day, like, I can hear her in my head going, yeah. And
Oh God, that is something I would have never uttered out loud.
Hey, listen, for the YouTubians behind the paywall, come on.
Sure.
That
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
Channel members, you guys rock.
Sean, did you ever see War Journal?
No.
McNulty is the villain. He plays Jigsaw.
Yeah, I remember
I'm
that.
trying to sell you on it.
I don't know why I didn't go see it or catch it after the fact.
This isn't. No, I was about to pivot really hard. Never mind. You brought up McNulty, and I'm like, there's a new HBO, or there was an HBO show. I don't know, whatever it is.
All right. I want to know Sean's other answer.
You know what? I don't feel like I need to even have another one. I'm gonna stand on Spider-Man because
I think it's a good answer.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
yeah, I think
I
it's
think
just-
especially looking at what's come post 2000, I think you're 100% right. No, we wouldn't have any of this without Spider-Man.
Different flavor.
I think the Dark Knight series of films is an interesting outlier because I don't think it really feels like Spider-Man. But I just think in terms of could they have gotten that movie out in terms of like getting the money for it
Right.
without Spider-Man? No.
Yeah. Because there's a pathos to Spider-Man that I think Batman Begins innovates on.
right. Like I have to imagine that in preparation for maybe possibly taking on a superhero movie, Christopher Nolan was like, well, what's the landscape? What else is out there? And I have to think that Spider-Man showed him like you can take a superhero and you can add drama that doesn't get campy, and you can, like Cale said, there can be pathos, there can be a real character there that you can work on and do things with.
I mean, I'd argue that first Spider-Man movie is campy as hell, but in the best way possible.
I
Yeah.
don't know
It's
if you would call it
rainy.
campy though. In 2002, it like I didn't watch it like that. I watched
fair.
Batman and Robin like that.
Yeah, it's definitely not Batman
yeah.
and Robin campy.
That's high camp, but I think Raimi there's inherent campiness in Raimi's film style across the board.
Yeah. But I think I would also argue that you could see the same type of camp in Batman Returns. I think if your
Sure.
definition of camp is fun, and not necessarily taking itself seriously, whereas like high camp is, really not taking yourself
Yeah.
seriously,
Borderline
Batman
drag.
and Robin,
Yeah.
borderline drag. But Spider-Man and like Batman Returns takes those elements, that make the thing fun and make it believable and make it a world where you can live in and believe you're in it, you'll believe a man can fly. That's camp.
Right. It felt true to life. Like,
Yeah.
Peter felt like a dude that could just be walking around and like, oh shit, you don't know that he's Spider-Man.
You know what really sells that is Spider-Man 2. The dude at the beginning of the movie when he's delivering the pizzas, he just stole that dude's pizzas.
Whoa,
It's just like it's like, yeah, okay. That
Was
makes total sense.
Did that become a "You're the Man Now, dog" meme? Whoa, he stole that guy's pizza.
I don't remember. It probably
Yeah.
did at that time. Yeah. You're the Man Now, dog is very old internet. My favorite time on the internet.
Still exists, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
Yeah,
The
I watched
other
the
thing,
Lando meme,
though,
yeah.
that I thought of when it comes to Spider-Man before we wrap is that before that movie, I don't really feel like superhero characters on film really like changed that much between films or even within the film itself. I feel like those Batman movies are very much like Batman is who he is. He's not going to change. He's Batman versus the problem, whatever that is. And they weren't that concerned with exploring him outside of you understanding, like, this is Batman. I don't have that much familiarity with the Superman movies, but I don't remember there being like a lot of Superman getting better, getting smarter, learning. You know,
He
he's
doesn't
kind of
become a different
Superman.
person.
Yeah.
Whereas Peter has to go through love and loss and realizing he's right, realizing he's wrong, adapting. I feel like there's an arc in every movie that they didn't do before.
Those Batman and Superman movies were very much it's text with little subtext. It was,
Yeah.
hero versus villain, which I think was what people wanted at the time, But I think, yeah, those Spider-Man ones, there's a lot more subtext. There's more subtlety. There's, interpersonal dynamics, especially like the Harry and Peter stuff too. Yeah, I agree with you. And then you get Christopher Nolan stuff, which takes that to the next level. Yeah.
It's all subtext. Yeah, I think those early Batman and Superman things, it was, it's the world changes because of the character more than the character changes because of what happens.
Right, the environment. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, The Dark Knight Rises is so subtextual that people don't like it. I will stand on that until my life ends. I believe it.
There was just a report that just came out today, like a couple of minutes ago, that was apparently DiCaprio was scheduled to be Riddler in that movie.
Oh, that's known. Yeah,
I think
that's
it's
been known.
confirmed now
Goyer
by some
Goyer did
execs,
an interview very recently where he said that on the red carpet for The Dark Knight, he was approached by an executive who said, "You guys, we got to do Leo as the Riddler in the next one. Tell Christopher Nolan." And David was like, "We don't work like that. Can you please chill, dude?"
Gotta
Not
get him
like
on
David
it.
Goyer.
Yeah. All right. We all gave our answers. What's your answer? What do you think is the most influential superhero movie of all time, and how do you define that? I think most people probably would say Superman. I think that is probably like the common answer, and I think it's probably like correct. But whatever your opinion is, it's valid. We want to hear it. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.